call this meeting to order, special town council meeting at 5:34. Roll call by the clerk, please.
Kerry McGee,
Yeah.
Greg LeBoissonier, Deb Bacon,
Here.
Gary Cody,
Here.
Ann Dixon,
Here.
Nicholas Gorham,
Here.
Edward Zika.
Present.
Okay, emergency evacuation plan, in case of an emergency, there's, right outside the door, there's exits left to right behind us. Go through these side doors and straight ahead, there's an exit right straight in front of you. Go outside in case of an emergency, hopefully you won't need it. Okay, item B, Madam Clerk.
Discussion of town manager search.
I think, Nick, are you prepared to read a letter that we have actively been searching, I'll just give a little break now. We've actively been searching for a town manager. Unfortunately, we have not had qualified people applying. So in air of caution, we wanted to reappoint or discuss reappointing our interim town manager, just so there would be, everything would be on the up and up. But I think we have a letter from our firm that's looking for a replacement for a town manager. And Nick, if you want to read that or
Sure.
and explain anything about it, you've been in conference, we're talking with Bernie and explain what we've been doing.
I have not talked with.
Okay, I think it was. I'm sorry.
But I'm happy to read the letter. I thought it was not. Oh, I apologize. Thank you. You're right, as usual. So I'm happy to read the letter that was sent to the town by Mr. Bernard Lynch, who is a principal of Community Paradigm Associates LLC, which is the search firm who the town hired some time ago to find good candidates for the town manager position. This is a letter dated July 25th, 2019. It's addressed to the town, the interim town manager, Mr. Edward Warzika. Dear Mr. Warzika, the purpose of this letter is to follow up on our phone conversation of earlier this week regarding the status of the Coventry town manager search. Unfortunately, as of today, the search has not proven successful in identifying and hiring an individual for this position. In this letter, I will provide some background to our efforts and describe some obstacles that have affected the process. I also provide some recommendations to bring the search to a successful completion. Part 1, review of process to date. We began the search process last August and worked with the town in developing a position profile to use as a recruitment tool to gather potential candidates. We advertised through the International City and County Management Association Job Center, posted on numerous college and university alumni job boards, utilized various social media platforms, distributed the posting to the Community Paradigm database of potential candidates, and actively worked through our network for candidates. The results of this first search effort were 12 applicants. Several were screened out through background searches, and several did not have applicable experience. Four remaining candidates were scheduled for a council interview immediately following the 2018 council election. In the end, the council interviewed 3 candidates as one candidate withdrew upon taking a town manager position in another community. The council determined that 2 of the candidates lacked the strict qualification requirements of the position as set forth in the town charter, and there were additional background questions regarding the other candidate that we were asked to research. While conducting additional reference and background checks on the single candidate of the first group, we did locate an additional candidate who was interviewed in late December. The council did authorize an offer of employment to this candidate subject to successful negotiation of an employment agreement and further background review by the town. While the background review was successfully completed, the negotiation of a contract extended over several weeks before concluding with the withdrawal of the candidate upon his acceptance of municipal management position in another community in late January. Over the last 6 months, we have advertised the position twice with ICMA, that's the International City Managers Association, and conducted recruitment activities similar to the first effort. While some 15 candidates have responded to these activities, we have not been successful in finding candidates that meet the specific qualification requirements set forth in the town charter. However, as required qualifications represent only one of the issues that have affected the search process, however, the required qualifications represent only one of the issues that have affected the search process. There are several other issues that complicate the search that we believe need to be taken into consideration in restarting the process. Accordingly, we believe that some modifications are necessary in order to hire a new and successful town manager for Coventry. We have identified the multiple and interrelated challenges that have complicated the search. Next page. Next section, search process challenges. There are multiple challenges that have impacted the Coventry search for a new town manager. Some are unique to Coventry and/or Rhode Island, while others are broader. While individually the issues might be solvable, together the challenges have made the process extremely difficult for now and the foreseeable future. Each of these issues has been described below. 1. The economy is generally very good with a very low unemployment rate, making the task of filling positions extremely difficult. This issue cuts across all sectors with fewer unemployed and underemployed people searching for positions. The market for town managers is extremely difficult, as large numbers of municipal managers are retiring due to generational shifts or what has been described as the silver tsunami. This issue also cuts across nearly all sectors. However, the issue in municipal government is more pronounced as fewer individuals in the next generational cohort chose to go into the municipal sectors. In short, demand exceeds supply. Anecdotally, 30 to 40% and perhaps more of manager positions have turned over during the past 3 to 4 years. This turnover is largely due to retirements and the resultant domino effect of churn as people move into new positions. 3. Most municipal managers remain in the state in which they begin their career, as they are familiar with forms of government, laws and regulations, networks, and the reality of settling down to raise families, purchase homes, etc. Rhode Island is, of course, a small state with a limit of homegrown talent and is largely dependent upon bringing municipal manager candidates in from other states. However, managers do tend to remain in their home states or regions. 4. Rhode Island is surrounded by 2 states with relatively generous defined benefit pension systems for municipal managers, Massachusetts and Connecticut. Luring candidates from these 2 neighboring states is challenging, as these potential candidates have often invested themselves in a system where leaving would be financially detrimental. 5. The town's charter language regarding the required qualifications of the town manager are extremely restrictive and onerous. The requirements are certainly to be lauded for attempting to ensure that the individuals chosen for the position are experienced and appropriately educated for the position of municipal management. However, as shown on the attached spreadsheet, Coventry's requirement of 5 years' experience as a town manager or assistant town manager and a Master of Public Administration degree or equivalent is the most restrictive language in Rhode Island. Most communities allow for flexibility or combinations of education and experience, or recognize that certain careers and positions are comparable to the position of town manager in responsibilities, skill set, and knowledge. 6. The town initially had us post the position at a salary of $120,000 per year, in spite of recommendation to set a salary of 130,000 plus or minus. In subsequent efforts, we have posted the position at 135 plus, 135,000 that is. The increase in salary is an improvement in the effort to attract candidates. However, as the largest Rhode Island community with a professional manager, the proposed salary is not a major difference from positions in smaller communities and is substantially less than several communities that are smaller in size. Information relative to the competitiveness of the town's salary target is also included on the attached spreadsheet. The salary information is based upon a January 2019 salary survey conducted by the Rhode Island Department of Revenue, Division of Municipal Finance. Current FY20 salaries are an estimate based upon a conservative 4% increase over the stated FY18 salaries. Actual salaries have likely increased at a greater rate, and vacant positions have been filling at higher salary than the estimated salaries. A summarized picture of Coventry's search situation is a competitive employment environment that can best be described as a seller's market, made more so by conditions in the municipal sector, especially within Rhode Island. The Coventry Town Charter language regarding town manager qualifications exacerbates the situation and further reduces the candidate pool. And finally, the salary level is not enticing enough to incentivize potential qualified candidates to make a move from current positions. Accordingly, we would recommend that the town consider some modifications before we begin a new phase of recruitment. Final section now, page 3, recommendations. As we move to a new phase of town manager search process through recruitment and posting of the position, we would propose that the town consider 1 or 2 adjustments to the town manager position. First, we would recommend that the salary for the town manager position be increased to $150,000 plus or minus. While certainly not guaranteed, a salary in this range might attract other Rhode Island managers to look more closely at Coventry as an option and opportunity. It could represent an opportunity for a 15 to 20% salary boost for managers from other communities within the state. This is generally the type of increase that employees look at before making a move from a known and secure position. A second change would be an amendment to the town's charter to allow more flexibility in the qualifications necessary for the appointment of a town manager. We have had applicants that have been major department heads within other municipalities that have master's degrees and have a clear understanding and skill set to carry out the functions of a town manager. However, they are immediately rejected due to the language of the charter. Likewise, we've had candidates with far more than 5 years as a town manager but lack a master's degree. A charter change would be the clearest method of clarifying the qualifications. However, it is understood that some consideration with legal counsel of implicit authority of the council.
No, you missed a line.
Did I miss a line?
Yep.
I am sorry. I almost got through the thing without doing that. Excuse
However.
me, and I'll repeat. However, it is understood that such an action would be time-consuming and delay the process. As an alternative, there should be some consideration with legal counsel of implicit authority of the council to act in accordance with the intent of the charter language while retaining council judgment on an appropriate mix of qualifications. I would certainly welcome the opportunity to meet with the town council to discuss these matters in more detail. Obviously, we are anxious to complete our task of bringing Coventry a highly qualified and successful manager. We take this task very seriously and want the best outcome for Coventry and its residents. Please feel free to contact me with any questions, and we look forward to working with you on next steps. Sincerely, Bernard Lynch, Principal.
Okay.
So,
We
thank you.
did thought about, and a couple council members wanted to bring Bernie here, but I thought this letter would clarify a lot of stuff, and if it doesn't, you know, in the future, we could absolutely bring him in for a conference, but I think his recommendations are well taken. I mean, I think the qualifications were presented several years ago was a political move, you know, it's just the way politics works. I think it's a little stringent, and none of us here doesn't want but the best candidate for the job, absolutely. But we have to be realistic. We have been actively searching for a candidate, and we've been given a legal opinion that as long as we're actively searching, I know our interim town manager has went over the 6-month time limit, but we're not, he's doing a great job, and I'm just so glad that he's actually took on that position for us, but we have to find someone qualified, and we have some strict, stringent rules for this, so we have to take some of these suggestions into consideration, and we're here tonight mainly to listen to the letter from Bernie and to also to reappoint the interim town manager if Mr. Wasika would still want the position. At this particular time, I'm going to open up to any comments from anybody from the council. We've all heard the letters. We've all, you know, read this. If you have any comments, any suggestions, Mr. Cody, please.
Well, thank you, Mr. President. First of all, my apologies to the council for showing up in my work garb. I came directly from work to here, so, but my apologies. Secondly, I understand that Bernie's ideas and suggestions with the raising the salary cap to a plus or minus $150,000. My concern would be the financial implications, what was budgeted for that position, where the additional money would have to come from out of next year's budget, which would be affected by that. And secondly, as far as a charter change, I'm not adverse to that idea, but in my mind, it is a time-consuming process because to do a charter change, I think, in my personal opinion, to do a charter change correctly shouldn't be just one issue in the charter. We should appoint a charter review commission and let them make recommendations to the council along with the charter changes that would be required to allow more flexibility in the hiring of a town manager, because I agree, we've had some highly qualified candidates that didn't meet the master's degree. We've also had master's degree candidates that didn't make the 5+ years experience as a town manager or an assistant town manager, but were just department heads. And I know that myself and Councilwoman Dixon are late to the process because the former council interviewed a lot of people and spent a lot of time on this before myself and Mrs. Dixon were elected. And I applaud the previous council for doing that. But I think if we're going to talk about making major changes to the charter, it should be done through a charter review commission upon recommendation to the council. And as far as the $150,000, the increase in salary, we've already, as a council, voted to increase it from $120,000, which it was paying, to $135,000, which was the last offer that we made to the qualified candidate that ended up going to work for another municipality. And it pains me to say that because I know what other department heads in the town of Coventry make, and $150,000 for a town manager is short money. But we're talking about taxpayer-funded positions, and I think we have to take that into consideration before we just haphazardly raise the offer to $150,000 to try to get a better candidate. Thank you.
Mr. Cody. Is there anybody else? Yes.
I just have clarification, Gary. We did not, the previous council, we did not interview town managers. We did interview for interim town manager, and that's how we hired Steve Delaney. But the council, we were not interviewing town managers. We waited until the new council was seated, and that's why we had that on
Thank you. My
November
mistake.
18th.
Thank you.
Okay.
Andrew, you have something?
I do.
Based on the discussion this evening, to me, there are 3 issues facing us this evening. 1, what do we do about seeking a town manager, including using another search firm? How are we describing the position? How are we going to set a salary range, et cetera? So the first one is, what do we need to do about seeking a town manager? Number 2 is an issue regarding charter changes, whether it's desirable or not. And number three, we have the appointment of an interim town manager. So I believe that we really need to tackle first, what do we do about seeking a town manager? And the question is, do we want to continue to use this search firm? Do we feel comfortable in what that firm has been doing and how has been advertising? Also, we have to look at how the position is even being described to the public and the people who are out there looking at the position. I think we need to look at salary range. I wouldn't go forward and just say 150 plus or 130 plus. We need to maybe set a range, so that gives you some wiggle room there, depending upon the qualifications and experience of the candidate. And we also need in the job description to also include perhaps some list of some of the benefits that the manager would get. We talked about a use of a car or something like that. I don't know all the other benefits, but I just don't even know how this position is being advertised. So I think we need to start there to,
I will send you a copy of what's posted.
okay.
The whole setup, it goes into a history of the town. It's a quite extensive posting that this company has done.
Okay.
He's currently involved in 9 additional searches right now, so he is his company has a very high success rate on filling these positions. Also in that packet that you have, Mrs. Dixon, is a copy of all of the town manager salaries currently
I saw them.
in the town, in the state.
I saw that, and when I looked at it, it didn't seem that, in some cases, we are below some of the other communities that are smaller, and some of them tend to be a little bit more wealthy, and they tend to be more generous across the board in lots of decisions that they make. But it doesn't seem that we were too far off the mark. But I do think that we need to consider salary. We need to consider how we position ourselves in our benefit package, et cetera.
I will simply say this. If you look at Rhode Island, yeah, we're below some. When you start looking at Massachusetts, Connecticut nearby, I'll give you an example. I received a letter from a headhunter offering a position that's opened up in Portsmouth, New Hampshire, a community of about 25,000. That position starts at $185,000. I mean, and I'm not saying we're at the same level, we're not, but it's what's happening. If you look at an example of right now in Rhode Island, I will give you Westerly. Westerly's town manager
I saw that,
resigned pretty much at the same time that ours did.
yes.
They were able to fill the position by August, but they offer $165,000 was his starting coming in. So, I mean, it is substantially a smaller community, less headaches. So, I mean, I'm again, I don't want it to look like I'm, making any kind of one way or another, but if you look at what the other communities are offering in their position, in the town size, and the amount of workload, I think Mr. Lynch is quite accurate on what's going on as far as why we're having the difficulty with this.
And
But I also noticed for Westerly, when you said they were able to fill that position quite quickly, there were no specific requirements. So
One of the other.
That's another
Exactly, that's the
factor in
point,
here.
because with the charter requirements, and then as well as
What you're
the
offering.
salary range, yeah, it makes for a huge difference. Portsmouth was the same way. They're in the same type of situation. If you look at this, there are a lot of communities that don't set specific requirements. They leave it up to the council to determine the candidates based on the candidates.
I mean, I think it's worthwhile for us to consider during this meeting whether, number one, we want to continue using this search firm. And I mean, maybe there's universal feeling for using that search firm, but I would set some kind of a limit saying, within X number of months or so, we want to see some more action. We could set some requirements about the frequency of reporting back to us. We shouldn't have to be asking for a report, et cetera. And then we need to really determine what we want for a salary range and benefits, et cetera, if we're going to go forward in using this search firm again. And I think that's one of the first things we need to talk about.
Can I make a comment on that? I'm perfectly comfortable with the search firm.
Yeah, if you turn your mic on.
It is on. Yeah, I'm perfectly comfortable with the search firm. I think some of the other reasons he stated is why we're not getting the people. I don't think it's the search firm's fault. I almost wonder if it isn't advantageous to us to have a special election and have a charter commission and review the charter and make the requirements not so stingent, because it's not gonna matter what firm we're gonna get, we're still gonna run into the same issues with these strict
But we haven't
requirements.
seen Bernie in 1 year. We hired him July 23rd last year. It's the last time he's come before council. I haven't seen an application since November 2018.
And he
Now-
has been speaking with our interim town manager. It
But the
has been
problem,
done.
the problem is he said he did get resumes. Who's reviewing these? We are the council. We should be looking at these resumes. We should be sitting down monthly discussing the town manager search.
Yeah,
Excuse
we
me,
probably
search.
should have done a little bit more,
But we
my
haven't
point
done
is,
anything.
Yeah, he has received a few applications, and right off the bat, he had told us that it doesn't meet the requirements, so there was no need to even
But it
forward
should
them
be,
to us.
it should be coming to council. It shouldn't be Bernie's decision. We, the council, should be looking. We, the council, have to go and interview and hire this person. Now, he had on his website, I pulled it up right before I came here, and current opportunities, you go on that, Coventry, Rhode Island, town manager. Did he receive any of the resumes by May 5th? That was the deadline that he had put out. Did any resumes come in from that one?
I have two that do not meet, and he sent them to me only because he sent them, because he didn't have others. There was a meeting, and I don't know if it was in January, February, Mrs. Bacon, where there were resumes that were given out. We had an executive session. I
Well,
believe you.
that January 14th, I was in the hospital with
You're right.
complications
That's what I
for
was,
the
that's what I was
foot,
getting
so I
at.
could not
I
attend.
brought, resumes were presented. I was told by the council, unless they meet the requirements, that I was wasting their time by bringing it to them because they didn't meet the charter requirements, which means they couldn't appoint them based on the current charter, so they didn't want to see them. I will turn over every one we get. I've got two others that came in on the last one that do not meet it. Bernie freely admits they don't meet it. One is from a community with, I think, 8,000 people, very little experience.
But why? If they don't meet the charter requirements,
Why send them forward? That's up to you.
why take council time in executive session to go over them? They don't meet the charter requirements. We
still-
clearly cannot appoint them. We can't hire them. So why would we do
And that's why I
that?
was told
But
not
it
to
would
bring
be
them on.
good for council to see what's coming in and then monthly be able to say, all right, what do we need to change? It has been really 7 months, nothing. We haven't had any executive session. I was told every time I asked, oh, it's budget, we don't have time. It's budget, we don't have time. Well, we're past the budget now, and now we're getting, oh, let's raise the salary 150 plus, and we're comparing, and I mean, we're
Those are
gonna.
just suggestions that he had given us. Yeah.
I know there's suggestions, but we're also looking at comparing, let's see, some of the communities. Barrington. We have Charlestown. We have East Greenwich. We are not East Greenwich. We are not Barrington. We are not Westerly. And did those communities receive almost 4% tax increases like we have been in our town? The taxpayers, where are we going to come up with that money? I mean, I understand having, the
Mr. Bacon, I'm not saying
superintendent
raise the
of
salary.
The superintendent makes $160,000. Yes, the finance director on the school side makes more than the town. I get it, but the problem is where is this money going to come from? We all heard the taxpayers. They are tired of their taxes being raised, and now we're talking about raising the salary for the town manager, but then, and I'm going to be real blunt, trying to dumb down the requirements. That's going to go over well with the taxpayers. I don't know what else to say, but I really think Bernie needs to come before us. I'd like to know when was the last time he went on and advertised on LinkedIn, because when I reviewed that, it's been over a year. Why isn't that on LinkedIn? Where has he been advertising? I think we, the council, deserve to know exactly where he is advertising. Specific, these are kind of, it's very vague, but I think we need to know exactly
I'm not opposed to having
specifically.
Bernie come in, if that's, we did instruct him that unless we got a qualified person, that we weren't gonna waste the council's time. So that was, something that I told him to do, if it doesn't meet the qualification. But if you feel more comfortable, I'm not opposed to having Bernie come in.
I'm not-
and
yeah,
give us.
I
He
think-
was willing to, obviously he's willing to come in, but he couldn't make today.
And I told them that this letter would probably answer, but obviously it's not answering all the questions that you have. So I'm not opposed to bringing them in.
Yeah, because I
We
wasn't
want
on
the
the-
best. So believe me, none of us here, don't want the best. We don't want to dumb down anything. We want the right candidate, but we got to be real. We just have to be realistic of what we can get. The money
Yeah,
we
I
can
just
spend.
want to make sure, is he just looking Connecticut, Mass? Are we just looking?
Oh, no,
in
he's
this-
looking- he's
is
looking
it a
everywhere.
nationwide search?
Oh,
And I think,
the guy we interviewed, I believe you were here,
yeah,
was from Sitka, Alaska. So I know he's not just doing Rhode Island and Mass and Connecticut.
Yeah, the
That guy was
ICMA
out of
is all over
Sitka,
the country,
Alaska.
so. I mean, I really think that he's been looking. I think we need to consider some kind of changes. And I mean, I don't want to raise the salary. I want to find someone within our salary range, but we just got to keep it real. And I want to find some. And I have faith in, why don't we make arrangements for Tony to come in, give us a.
Would you like him on the August 26th meeting,
Well,
if
that's
he can
probably
make
going to
it?
be a pretty busy meeting. I mean, because we only have that one that month. I mean, but it shouldn't.
I'll bring him, do you want it in executive or do you want it in
Executive
open?
I think
session.
it's an executive.
we can
Ju-
do both,
just-
executive and
for
open.
Just for a point of clarification, because legal counsel is sitting here. Does this council, under any stretch of the imagination, in an emergency situation, have the authority to override our charter? Yes or no?
No.
I think it's simpler than that, if you want, because if you read 5.03 carefully, you will see that that does not really even apply to this situation. Let me go through it very slowly, all right? So that the members of the council and anybody watching from the public will understand. This is the section that is key to whether there really is a 180-day term limit for an interim town manager. And here's what it says. By letter filed with the town clerk, the town manager shall designate. Well, that doesn't apply because Graham Waters left and we haven't had a town manager since.
Correct.
So that doesn't apply. Subject to approval by the town council, that does because you've approved Mr. Delaney and Mr. Warzika. A qualified town administrative officer to exercise the powers and perform the duties of town manager during the manager's temporary absence or disability. That assumes that the town manager is coming back. He's not. So, during such absence or disability, again, that doesn't apply. The town council may revoke such designation at any time and appoint another officer of the town to serve until the town manager shall return or the manager's disability shall cease. No interim appointment shall last more than 180 days. In a sense, this is not quite the same thing that is being contemplated in Section 503. This is different. We had a town manager who essentially quit. We had one interim who filled in for a little while, and he told us he couldn't do it for very long. And since then, Mr. Warzika has been the council's choice to lead the administrative duties of the town. And I'm not so sure that we're in anything that's defined by this charter or limited by it. On the other hand, I think what you're doing tonight is a very good idea because I think, the public's always interested in who's running the town. But I think in these circumstances, I am very confident that the council has been acting properly and diligently in trying to find a replacement town manager, a permanent town manager. And you now have a letter from the person who we hired, who has a lot of experience in this arena, and he says that things are really tough. So that corroborates the experience that we're having, and I think supports the case that it is entirely appropriate for the council to, if it wishes, in its discretion, to continue Mr. Warzika's commission further until you find another town manager or until you don't feel that he's any longer the person for the job.
Then I'm going to recommend, Mr. President,
Yes.
I'm going to recommend that we invite the consultant for the August meeting, executive session, And at that time, we, as a council, make a decision concerning how we are going to proceed with salary, what changes we might want to make in advertising the position, et cetera.
And I might add just that August is gonna be a very busy meeting, because we only have one meeting that month. I don't think whether we push it back to the first meeting in September, give us a chance to get the August meeting done, give us a chance to discuss some matters, how we wanna, further with this. I think maybe in September. I'm all for having them, but I just don't wanna
understand.
preempt too much. And we may have an executive session already. That's a big meeting on August. So
I
suggest-
understand that, but I think that this is a serious matter.
Oh,
one
absolutely.
That's been going on for a long time. It's easy to say, let's do it the following month or the following time, et cetera. I'd like to see if it's at all possible to have Mr. Bernie come in at the August meeting in the executive session so that we can start the process of deliberation as to how we want to proceed in the search.
All right, well, why don't we instruct the town manager to check with Bernie if that fits into his schedule. I would rather see the September, but let's try to get something as soon as possible. Have him come in, give us an explanation. If August doesn't work, September's fine. And then wait to see how much of a load we're gonna have in August. I don't wanna overload us on August meeting. So we'll decide that at the agenda time and have this.
26th. 26th.
26th, all right. So, I'm fine with that. I'm not opposed to, to getting all the
I
information
understand.
out. If there's no other comments on that, we need some further discussion on where we're gonna go, and we don't have the funds and so on, so we can have some conversations, and, but I think the next order of business would be,
Excuse me, I just want one thing.
yes.
Mr. Wazika, based on the budget that you have proposed, just how much money would be available if we were to hire a manager, say by January, for example?
The budget is set with the numbers for each of the departments as is. I mean, to find any additional money requires taking it from somewhere else, some other line item.
I think what she's asking is what was set in the
130,
upcoming
what's set in the
budget.
budget is 135.
135. Okay, thank you.
Mr. President, with that being said, I would like to make a motion for reappointment of Edward Wazika as the interim town manager for a period not to exceed 180 days, at which point this council will review that appointment at that time and see if it needs to be extended.
Okay, we have a motion. Do I have a second? We have a second. All in favor?
Discussion.
Okay, we can have a discussion for, anybody have any comments on that?
So I would like to set into the motion the exact date. So we're.
180 days, we'll do
well,
180
is-
days
what-
from today.
What is 180 days?
On my phone,
Yeah.
we can figure that out, whatever the.
Well, I think we should put it in the motion so that we all know what we're voting for.
So.
Six
What's
months
the
from-
effective date? Is it,
If
what's today?
Is it today, the effective date July?
Or is it retro from
retro
July 14th
14th?
when it expired?
From today, we're doing this, we want to,
Well, I just have a question then. So July 14th, the 180 days, that's when it expired. So from the 15th until this present date, are we good? I mean,
With all due respect, the resolution that was passed, and I know you weren't here, Councilmember Bacon, on January 14th, 2019, did not set a 180-day limit. And you can interpret
but even
the
though if it wasn't set, the charter still states it,
But it
though.
doesn't state it. That's my point. It doesn't.
It doesn't.
And it's not then. At that point, we were going beyond the 180 days. And I was assuring the council that it was appropriate in the exigent circumstances to do so. However, that being said, if you just want to set the 180 days because it's a good time period in
Well, I
which
think we need to put
check
an
again.
effective date,
Well,
because that's
yeah,
what we did
that's fine.
prior.
I
We
just-
did an effective date.
I don't want you to. My opinion is you're not really bound by that anymore. You're already beyond it if it applies.
I had said 180 days because I thought that's what the charter reflected. If the charter does not reflect that, my understanding is that when the council appoints, they appoint that person until either that person resigns or another person be appointed in their stead.
I believe that is correct, especially since
Which
he's the
means there
interim
is
town
not
manager.
a 180-day time limit on it. And when if we choose to vote to appoint tonight, we do not have to come back in 180 days and reappoint. He serves until a town manager is found, he resigns from the interim position, or the town council appoints another interim town manager in his stead.
So would you like to
Or a
read-
town manager.
I would like to redo my motion.
Okay, can I just ask one more, because it says, no interim appointment shall last more than 180 days.
Right, this, but
And I get it, but we did, the last time this came before us was, we went and we were told 180 days, and then we reappointed Ed. But we were going to stay with the 180 days and come back every 6 months.
I looked at the minutes and it does not indicate that at all. From that January 14th minute, I very carefully examined the minutes, Councilmember Bacon, and that was not a condition that was imposed. You can impose it. I'm just correcting the historical record
But could we
here.
just, out of abundance of caution, could we make sure if we put an effective date on this for tonight, and then we put it in our calendar, 5 months out, if we have not hired an interim town manager, to make sure that we have this discussion again, and it is on one of our calendars for the 6 month.
Yeah,
We can do
you're
anything
the
we want.
council. You can do what you
Yeah, I
want.
mean, but a motion was made right now,
January 25th?
I hadn't removed the second,
Yes.
withdrawn that. To keep the discussion in front of us, I don't have a problem with saying 180 days. It's, in order to do it, not that we have to, but I mean, it just makes us bring something back
I
for
agree.
discussion
I
to,
agree.
Yes.
to talk about town manager again.
and I don't mind having this
Yeah.
discussion every 6 months. I really don't, or 5 months,
That's-
whatever, 180 days. is.
So-
180 days is January 26th.
Well, we could say January 31st.
Yay.
We could say January 31st, 2020.
Well, then you buy 180 days.
Well,
Well, can I just make I think I can
Okay.
I
hit the
let's-
sweet
let's-
spot on this. After the words interim town manager on the resolution, do you see that? After the word interim town manager, period, turn the period into a comma and say, for a period not to exceed 180 days.
I have a question. Is the term interim town manager and acting town manager synonymous? Do we have to use the term interim town manager? He's acting town manager, actually.
Right. I think we're getting very deep.
I know, we're getting deep somewhere, I know that.
I was going to
But
use
I mean,
a
I'm
big
just
word.
saying,
I think
I'm
we're
gonna use
getting
the big
way
word.
into the weeds.
And again, and I understand the concerns that, okay, we have a charter, and if, that we want to follow the charter, but like I said.
All right, let me
Are they in fact synonymous?
We're gonna get way involved. I'd like to have a motion. We change that motion. Would you be interested in changing the motion to 100? Yes.
Sorry, can I just say one more thing? But I know we're in the discussion, it has nothing to do with the 180 days. Going forward, Ed, could I please ask that we, the council and the taxpayers, we used to get weekly managers' reports from Graham Waters, and I know weekly, yes, on Fridays. You weren't here. Can we at least have a weekly report on what is going on in the town
I
happenings?
will do whatever the council requests that I do. If
Don't
they,
send me one.
It's not on the agenda this evening, but we can certainly
But
send
it's
us
a-
weekly
you know,
about
just-
the town manager search, if that's what you want to do. But if you want to bring up the town manager in the next meeting, we'll definitely put that as an agenda item, where he can update us on the town manager search. And he's open to any,
Oh, wait.
whatever you would like.
I mean, it was nice that the residents, it was always posted on the website so everyone could see it. So it was nice. It was a lot of, it was a lot what was going on in the town, and it gave people advance notice. It was nice, and, I'm just asking for something like that.
Whatever you like, if the council wants that, I will give that. That's not a problem.
He's very accommodating.
Yeah.
listen,
I'll go back to IT too if you want that. I'm easy.
Can I?
And can we have an effective date on this?
Yeah.
Effective when so we can have the,
July 30th.
July?
Can
we will mention on the August meeting, we'll have that put in. If he wants to update us on the interim town manager search on a weekly basis, I'll put that on the agenda in August, so we'll have weekly to search. It's not
But,
gonna be
yeah,
the
but
same.
no, I'm talking our, the weekly managers reports that we used to get on Friday afternoons from Graham Waters. He would email it to the council members, so we knew what was going on in planning, what was going on in Parks and Rec, DPW, all these upcoming events, any concerns, and then after, he would send it to the council members. It was posted to the town
It's
website.
not an agenda item, that's my problem. It's
Okay.
not just- We can certainly have that done, we can discuss that, I'll have a discussion with him to send that out. I don't think it's something that has to be, on the agenda. I don't want to discuss something that's not on it, so I will have a discussion with
Well,
him.
I
He
mean-
can send it out to us, that's not a problem. That's not something that has to be on the.
We can require
So,
that.
yeah, we can.
Okay,
request that
and
as
Greg,
president.
you made the, for the
Yeah.
acting town manager, what's this for a solution? Acting town manager / interim, cover both bases?
Now, let me, let's clarify this. Let's get this.
May I just make a motion?
Well,
I think, Mr. Cody,
we
you
have
already have a motion
we
in,
have a
so you have to
motion
either
there.
rescind it.
At this point, I'll remove my second.
Okay.
I would like to make a motion that we reappoint Ed Wazika as the acting / interim town manager to be reviewed after a period of 180 days by the council or the next closest meeting preceding the
Jan-
180
January
days.
26th is the date from today.
Okay, so doesn't have to be a special meeting called. We can do it at the regular meeting. Thank you.
All right, we have a motion. Everybody understands that motion, there's no problem. Do we have a second?
Excuse me, I would like the town clerk to read the motion. Please read the motion
Actually, Nick has it.
exactly as it was stated.
You want me to read it?
Please, you have it in front of you.
Someone needs to read
Nick,
it.
you want me to repeat it?
Yeah, wait a minute.
I have it. I'm just writing it.
Once you repeat your motion again, so we can hear it, doesn't matter whether you're repeating it or whether Nick is repeating. Repeat your motion, Mr. Cody. Repeat your motion, Mr. Cody.
I'd like to make a motion that we reappoint Edward Wazika as the interim / acting town manager effective this date for 180 days or the meeting preceding the 180-day mark, period.
Okay, we have a motion. I think it's pretty well clear. Anybody have a second?
Second.
We have a second. All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? Ayes have it. Motion carried. I also want to add that I want to thank Mr. Wazika for taking on this responsibility over the last several months. And through the difficult budget season, you worked hard. I've been on this council for almost 9 years, and I'm not blowing smoke, but you have been probably one of the better town managers, if not the best that we've had. And I appreciate the hard work that you put into this, and I thank you for it.
Thank you,
All
sir.
right.
Motion
I guess
for
a
adjournment.
Motion to adjourn would be in order.
I have a question.
Yes, you
May I?
have a question.
We have talked about the requirements for manager. Do we want to talk about them again when the consultant comes to visit us at the end of August? Or do we want to start that discussion now?
We won't start it tonight, but we should start the discussion prior to, we could probably set up an executive session and discuss that sometime and see where we stand. I mean, there's not much we can discuss beyond having a charter review or beyond having a vote to change the charter, but we can have some discussions. You can email any of your thoughts, any concerns to our town manager.
Well, the reason I asked that is I was listening to Mr. Gorin read the section from the charter, and it seems like there's another section that needs to be revisited because it says that someone could be appointed if the manager was disabled or what have you. It doesn't talk about it. We just are without a manager because someone has resigned, et cetera. So it seems to be a void in the charter which takes into account potentially real situations. So it's not just looking at the requirements for the manager, it's looking at other things relating to the appointment of an interim manager or the appointment of a manager. And there may also be other sections of the charter that need review. So I think that this is a more lengthy discussion, but I just open it up as it needs to be on an agenda.
And I feel as though that it needs to go to a charter review commission, but in light of, an election coming up in a year, 15 months from now, basically, it's whether we had a special election or whether we just discussed it and come and take care of it on the following election. So it's without either having an election or waiting till the next election, there's not a lot we can do about it, but except have discussions about it and give some suggestions. But I think you're right, a charter review commission would be the best to discuss we have several matters that could be changed, you know, so I think it wouldn't hurt to set up a charter review commission.
I think it's, there are some things that need to be looked at. I
And
think
that's
that'd be
the
a
kind of
really
discussion
good.
could come in. Yeah, absolutely. We should probably work on, you know, setting that here again, not an agenda item, but I think it's something that we need to consider. So, all right, with that being said, everybody's questions answered? Anybody have any other comments before we end? And the motion to adjourn will be in order.
Motion to
We
adjourn.
have a motion. We have a second? We have a second. Meeting adjourned. Thank you.
All in favor?
Oh, yeah, all in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? Ayes have it. Motion adjourned. There we go.
It's in a hurry to get back on that motorcycle.
Yeah.